Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. I hope that you are all doing well and that you're all having a great day. To start things off, there was a shift in 2018 against Ethereum. That's to say, there were a lot of negative attitudes about Ethereum in the cryptocurrency space, and also in just the wider markets. A lot of people didn't feel comfortable about Ethereum. There were a lot of bears, if you will, who were constantly talking about that Ethereum was going to fail. However, that sentiment seems to have shifted dramatically, and without further ado, let's jump right into it. Ethereum devs constitute the vast majority of decentralized finance or DeFi applications creators, according to a report by Binance report on the 6th of June. According to the report, decentralized finance can be thought of as the following. They say, an ecosystem comprised of applications built on decentralized networks, permissionless blockchains, and peer-to-peer protocols for the facilitation of lending or borrowing or trading with financial instruments. This ecosystem purports to offer a permissionless, decentralized network for users who reportedly retain full custody of their crypto assets. According to the report, the main underpinning of this ecosystem consists of lending and borrowing platforms that support blockchain assets. One of the primary pairs of blockchain assets used on DeFi, for example, is the token known as MakerDAO, and its sister known as the DAI, D-A-I. The report argues that since Ethereum is the largest blockchain platform by market cap, it makes sense that the birthplace of most dApps is Ethereum. However, this may change with the introduction of new and growing platforms such as EOS. Taking a little step back, I want everyone to note that the article is named "The vast majority of dApps for finance are built on the Ethereum blockchain, not video games, not other, not trading platforms or cryptocurrency exchanges. It has to do with finance." During the course of 2018, I was relatively surprised. I think one of the main negative sentiments that came about from Ethereum was that, for those who don't know, is that in 2017, we were told that we were going to have a number of upgrades on the Ethereum platform that would allow Ethereum to be able to do millions of transactions per second. This never transpired. A lot of people thought that Ethereum would never get these upgrades, and apparently because in the beginning of 2019, now, we were told that sometime during the middle of this year to the end of this year, we would have at least some of the upgrades that we were promised about a year and a half ago to 2 years, finally entering the Ethereum blockchain ecosystem space, whatever you kind of want to call it. One of the main things that why I thought and still think that Ethereum is going to make it, regardless of if people have a negative view on it or regardless if people don't hear about it every day in the news. I think a lot of people confuse when they don't hear about a cryptocurrency project or a blockchain or cryptocurrency skyrocketing in price every single day, that there has to be something wrong with it. Something's not right. I think people need, how do I say this? I feel like a lot of times people need constant affirmation in general about what they're holding sometimes to kind of feel comfortable with it. It's kind of just how I feel. That's one of my own personal things. But behind the scenes, Ethereum is doing very well, and I don't think that they're going anywhere anytime soon. A lot of the other things that I have up here tied directly into this exact topic, because like I said, I've seen a shift. And it's happened more so at the beginning of 2019, and a lot of people have become incredibly bullish on Ethereum. And I want to tell you some of the reasons why I think people should also be bullish on Ethereum. This one says right here, for those who are not looking at the screen, it is an article from Bloomberg. It says a $100 million crypto fund opens with the goal of going long. A new $100 million investment firm known as Dharma Capital is opening to investors who want to bet that digital assets such as Ether are poised, they say, for a 10-year bull run. Of course, Ether saw one of the largest boom and bust cycles in crypto, rising an astounding 17,000% in 2017, only to see a 94% drop of its gains erased by the end of last year. Dharma founders, however, are counting on Ether's long-term integral role in the Ethereum blockchain to counter such mania. They said, "We want to acquire what we consider a new asset class." Keys, one of the first employees of Consensus, a Brooklyn-based Ethereum application developer, compared the state of crypto today with the early days of the internet's popularization, when investors backed Google or Amazon, which operate atop the web's architecture. The cryptocurrency Ether is the equivalent of the web. It makes the Ether blockchain work, but unlike with the internet, investors can buy Ether directly. He said, "We are 10 years long on Ether. His firm plans to create similar funds for Bitcoin and Filecoin in the future, he said. A lot of people have started going long not only on Bitcoin, but also on Ether. And it goes, once again, ties exactly to the things that we're going to be talking about. But there's a lot of money that's moving behind Ethereum right now. Maybe even depending on how you want to look at it, the money's moving in front of it. Because when Ethereum does have these upgrades, there's going to be a scarcity of the amount of coins that are going to be produced because of the proof of stake mechanism that they're going to be activating, but just also for the amount of transactions that they're going to actually have. What we're seeing is that a lot of countries around the world are actually starting to openly build on top of Ethereum, or they're writing certain laws on top of Ethereum, or there are a lot of things around the world where farmers are also using the Ethereum blockchain to be able to track transactions, things that are happening behind the scenes as far as like where things are going. I want to say Walmart or Kmart was one of them. I can't really confirm that, but I remember one of the very big names was also in talks about using Ethereum as well. This article says 94 out of the top 100 blockchain projects are built on Ethereum. This one says Brazilian electoral system to use Ethereum blockchain network. As the technology behind the blockchain develops and evolves, its popularity will increase, and more government and private organizations will look forward to it. For digital solutions, the latest country to embrace the blockchain is Brazil, where legislators are pushing to move popular petitions. Whoa, sorry about that. I don't know if you guys even heard that. That was my microphone. Pushing to move popular petitions to the Ethereum network. This was actually from a year ago, and this is one of the main reasons why I was kind of not confused, but a lot of people got very bearish on Ethereum. I assume it was because of the price drop, which isn't really a lot of the fundamentals for these things haven't changed. Over the course of 2018, we had an enormous amount of news. I still feel like, and I think I'm always going to feel this way about 2018, that people were pushing down the prices of cryptocurrencies on purpose to try and get them as low as possible so that they could accumulate more. But I think this also ended up in that shaking the branch, shaking the tree situation where people were kind of falling out of the cryptocurrency market because they saw that things were going lower. Once again, because a lot of people, even though I mention this all the time, people still don't do it. I believe that everyone should always do their own research to really figure out exactly what's happening in the cryptocurrency space, or even just in your own life or with your own money. Like, it's always very important to really kind of dig deeper to see exactly what's happening. While other platforms have emerged to become Ethereum killers and all this other stuff, and I'm going to take you over and blah, 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 none of them are really doing it. And the ones who are getting any type of movement forward are only developing systems that are kind of for video games or like social media platforms or other things like that. No one's really doing what Ethereum is doing as far as governments and other major corporations around the world actually building on top of their platform. I think I would feel quite differently about EOS, Tron, and Cardano, and every other, Ethereum killer out there. If we had countries building on top of them as well, that'd be something incredibly different. But it seems like the other platforms that have come out as competitors to Ethereum at the moment are only being used for video games and or speculative purposes, while we know for a fact that Ethereum, this isn't even like all of the, I refused to have 39,000 tabs up there. There's also, you can Google it as well. If you Google like Vitalik Buterin Ether Russia or like Ethereum Russia, you'll find a lot of articles as well where people in the government of Russia are also actively looking to build on top of Ethereum as well. Another really important thing that, and I don't understand why. I don't understand why it takes so long. This is my, once again, I hate that I have to keep saying that it's my opinion, because a lot of times people don't understand what I'm really saying. My opinion, of course. I think that the pricing in of things takes a very long time for the cryptocurrency community. I think even when people hear about very good things happening in the cryptocurrency space, I think it doesn't move them as much as it probably should, especially once I never thought that prices should have dipped as low as they did during the course of 2018, especially with all the good news that we had. But a lot of the news that we had, but not this news in particular right here, but the news that we had was very bullish on everything. We had an enormous amount of money that was flowing into the cryptocurrency space, whether it be just normally on cryptocurrency exchanges or even just over the counter, with people buying up these coins as they were going lower in price. Because I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it's a difference between, dare I say, normal money and like rich money, but I have a feeling that when you hear certain names getting into the cryptocurrency space, I think it moves certain parts of the market more than others. And this is why I think we saw like record numbers of people buying over the counter in 2018. Without further ado, this one says, Ernst & Young's global blockchain leader Paul Brody says blockchain is poised to trigger a fundamental transformation of how enterprises do business. The accounting and consulting firm Ernst & Young is building on Ethereum. And Brody says use cases for audits and supply chain management are some early examples of prime use cases for the technology. He says, what I hope you'll take away from this today is that blockchain is maturing. We have real products, real customers, real use cases, real value creation, stuff that's in operations, and we also have a roadmap for where things can go and should go in the future and how this can have an even bigger impact. Blockchains, we think, are going to be the future in ways which companies, models, and businesses manage their business processes, and in particular, we can basically model any process between two enterprises or two agencies or two governments as a combination of tokens to represent assets and items of value and contracts. So this is another major name in the financial world. For those who not know what Ernst & Young is, they're absolutely massive. They're usually spoken in the same breath as Fidelity and TD Ameritrade. They're extremely large, and the fact that they have announced that they're also going to be openly building on top of Ethereum is massive. And I think this is why we get news like this, that there are $100 million funds that are going to be... You understand how much research goes into the actual all of this when people are looking for new assets to be able to acquire in hopes. Sorry, I heard screaming in the background and I had no idea what that was. Like really no idea what that was. Okay, anyway, sorry. The point is how much time and effort actually goes into the valuation of different assets. Like I mentioned this before as well, 2018, maybe even the beginning of 2019. I said, when you hear about Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, and all these other banks and institutions getting into the cryptocurrency space, they're not doing it because they simply like the name of these cryptocurrencies. They're doing it because they've done an enormous amount of research. The people from the New York Stock Exchange told us last year that they had been investigating crypto since 2014 or 2015. That's a very, very long time. You can imagine what it's like to be able to come up with and to get the funding for a $100 million crypto fund that thinks that Ether is going to have a 10-year bull run. There are tons of metrics and they see exactly where the space is going, especially when you get information and news that we know is true, and the fact that there are countries who are going to be building on top of this as well. It's incredibly fascinating, and I think, once again, a lot of people lose sight of the bigger picture. I am still terrified of what's going to happen when crypto prices go up, because I know a lot of people are going to be selling their crypto, and it's going to be a very sad time for them. I have heard, and dare I say the numbers out loud, estimates of where people think that Ethereum, or rather Ether, the cryptocurrency, the price of where it's going to go in the future. I've heard estimates anywhere. I've heard during the next bull run, just the next bull run, people are expecting Ethereum to hit anywhere between $4,000 to $10,000. I assume that the $10,000 is more indicative of if we have the proof of stake protocol finally active on top of Ethereum, and the 4,000 as just a 4x from where it was before. I think Ethereum hit 1,200 or 300 in 2017. Up, I think it was $8. It went $8 to 1,200, 1,300. So people are assuming anywhere from $4,000 to $10,000. The numbers that I've seen as far as Ethereum within the next 5 years, that's if we're talking about a $250,000 to $500,000 to a $1 million Bitcoin, anywhere from $15,000 to around $85,000 per coin. A lot of people think that Ethereum, for those who don't know, Ethereum was originally released, and I think this still holds true. They're trying to become their own internet. They're trying to become an alternative to the internet that we have right now, where everything can be decentralized, where you can build your laws, anything that you want to build or write on top of a blockchain that is decentralized, as opposed to doing it on top of an internet. This is the original goal and dream of Ethereum. It's taking a bit longer than planned, but I would rather them take a bit longer and get all the coding correct before they actually implement it on the blockchain. Ethereum is becoming almost like another Bitcoin, wherein improvements do happen, but they don't happen as quick. And I think the reason, so for those who don't get what I'm talking about, upgrades on the actual, the number one coin, Bitcoin, happen fairly slow because there's too much money at risk right now. When Bitcoin ends up becoming a multi-trillion-dollar blockchain, you can't go willy-nilly and just kind of implement anything on top of the blockchain that you want because you think it sounds cool. Because should there be a bug or something in that code that causes it to mess up and people around the world are losing millions, hundreds of millions, billions, trillions of dollars, that is a very big problem. And this is the space that I think that Ethereum has finally stepped into. I think for a very long time, a lot of people did not take Ethereum seriously. I think people thought that Ethereum was just another cryptocurrency that was trying to be like Bitcoin, but it's not. Bitcoin is meant to, as of right now, the idea that people have is that Bitcoin is meant to be a store of value and or a way to simply transfer value back and forth. Ethereum, while you can do both of these things at well, is trying to become its own ecosystem, its own world that is built in cyberspace, but is completely decentralized and no one can tell you when, what, how, where, so and so you can do with your own money or what you are posting on the actual thing itself. Very fascinating that it has grown up to kind of be this way, because for a very long time, even I supposed that Ethereum was just trying to be a place where people could have ICOs or people could make video games and stuff on top. But I think when you start getting into the multi-billion-dollar place where Ethereum is right now and big money has started coming into it, I think that the rhetoric changes a lot, especially when we had news in 2017, once again, that Russia and a couple of other countries were planning on building on top of Ethereum. And I think this one is also one as well. Yep. The headline says Forbes releases a top $50 billion companies exploring blockchain, and over half are working with Ethereum. This came out a couple of weeks ago. I'm interested to see exactly how far Ethereum goes. I don't think Ethereum is going anywhere anytime soon. I think it is not too big to fail. I think it's too big not to succeed, if you kind of get the difference. It's not to say that Ethereum one day couldn't explode, that someone else or something else could take it over, usurp it, pass it by, what have you. There's far too much money going behind it, and I think because the way that the cryptocurrency markets are kind of built right now, in 2013, 14, and 15, the coins were kind of moving up and down all over the place. I think the only one that stayed in place, or rather, I know the only one that stayed in place was Bitcoin. We had a lot of other coins that were kind of constantly moving around. And over the course of 2018, the coin market relatively stayed the same. But except for between Ethereum and XRP kind of flipping each other back and forth, the top 10 more or less remained the same, except for, I think, SV and maybe one other. I think Tron also entered the top 10 or something like that. And I think this is because we had information from, I believe it was NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. I can't remember exactly which one at the moment. They said when they were talking about being able to list things on their platform for trade, for movement, what have you, so and so and so. And people were asking them, did they plan on listing a certain number of coins onto their platform? And they said, yeah, we see no reason why we wouldn't go after the top 7 or I think top 9, they said, cryptocurrencies somewhere out there to be able to list on our platforms. And this is why I think we've seen a solidification of the cryptocurrency space where it kind of is right now. As far as the coins that where they were before, they have relatively remained in the same place. And this is why I think we see an enormous amount of funding being pushed into these coins, because as of right now, this is what I told other people before, I firmly believe that you should really be looking into exactly which cryptocurrencies you have. I know maybe only 3 people will actually heed my warning, but we have news, at least on a weekly basis, of tons of exchanges that are closing down, tons of cryptocurrency, what's it called? Coins that are going out of commission, disappearing. People are losing their money. And a lot of these coins have even with the market going up and Bitcoin almost tripling in price over the last like 3-4 months, a lot of these coins are still completely disappearing. A lot of people have their money in these coins. A lot of people don't really pay attention to where the market is moving towards. When we finally do have confirmation, I'm not sure if it's going to happen sometime this month or next month. It is believed that within June and or July, we should start getting information from Fidelity, New York Stock Exchange, and NASDAQ as to exactly the full extent of their thing that they're trying to launch and exactly which coins that they end up having on their marketplace. I firmly believe at this point, it is at least going to be Bitcoin, XRP, Ether, and Litecoin. At least those 4 coins that are going to do very well, because I believe that they're going to be added onto these multiple platforms. I want everyone to think for a moment, like I said, just because I said it before, just because you don't like Bitcoin doesn't mean that the Bitcoin price isn't going to go up. And just because you don't know a lot about Ethereum, or you may think that some other newer coin who has delusions of grandeur or think that they are better or quicker or faster than Ethereum, even though they might technically be at the moment. They don't have the amount of funding and money behind them that Ethereum does. Doesn't mean that you probably shouldn't hold and or own a tiny bit of Ether. As of right now, the way that things are looking in this world that we live in, it looks like Ethereum is going to be doing extremely well. And I wonder if we're going to... imagine how fascinating this is. Around the time I got into cryptocurrencies, around the time when Bitcoin was floating around $200, it was no more than $220. It was somewhere floating around there, and I told an enormous amount of people to get into Bitcoin. Buy a fraction of it. I don't care. Buy half of it. Just get some type of Bitcoin. No one listened to me. Friends, family, every single person. No one listened until years later, until Bitcoin got up to around $10,000 per coin, and everyone was very interested in acquiring just fractions of Bitcoin. How do I get some of this Bitcoin? How do I get fractions of it? The way that I think at the moment, Ethereum is floating around $240 or something like that. Imagine if we end up getting into a situation in 5 years where Ether does succeed heavily and does end up have a valuation anywhere between $25,000 to $50,000 per Ether. There are going to be people in that time frame in the future who are going to be like, oh my gosh, I wish I could have gotten Ether when it was around $200 something. At some point, Ether is going to go back over 1,000 where it was before. And I think once we end up hitting these multi-trillion-dollar market caps for these cryptocurrencies, I think this is where Ethereum is going to really thrive, especially when they implement Plasma. And it does have 1 million transactions per second. And also we have proof of stake. And people are staking their coins to be able to actually create more Ether. It's very fascinating. And this is where for some reason, people don't value crypto highly until the price itself is actually high, which is something that I think is also kind of weird because I think Ethereum fell down to, I think it was $80 or 89, something like that, dollars, when the entirety of the market was kind of going down. But no one really buys these things when they're going down. It's very weird, at least to me. Anyway, the point is, I think Ethereum is going to do very well. It's all kind of written, all of it, like it's very in your face now. Before, I think in 2000, even 16 and 17, it was very speculative. Nobody knew where the cryptocurrency space was going to go. But now it's fairly obvious, at least to me, especially if you've watched a lot of the other videos that I've done, where certain coins are going to go because there's far too much money floating behind them. And I mean this as far as we've been talking about Ether and Ethereum. And this isn't to say anything negative or be negative or so and so and so. It's more so like these articles were not written about Ethereum Classic. They weren't written about SV. They weren't written about Bitcoin Gold. It's about these hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars that are starting to flow around, behind, inside of Ethereum. Kind of interesting, right? Anyway, let's move on. Next up, this ties directly into what we were talking about a couple of days ago. Yuri Bebek, MoneyGram's global head of product and innovation, believes it is highly probable that cryptocurrencies represent the future of how people will shift money across borders. MoneyGram announced a partnership with Ripple in 2018 to test the digital asset's ability to lower the cost and increase the speed of payments. Bebek told the Institute of Robotic Process Automation and AI that the results of the test revealed the vast potential of crypto in the world of finance. Bebek says, the worst kept secret about institutional remittances is that value isn't really moving across borders when someone sends money overseas. Instead, companies pre-fund bank accounts in countries around the world to be able to power the global remittance industry. For those who have no idea what that is or what this guy was talking about, if you are sending money around the world with banks and stuff like that, or institutional remittances such as MoneyGram and what's the other one? PayPop? No, it's not PayPop. What is it called? MoneyGram, Western Union. Yes, my gosh, sorry for screaming into the microphone. They don't actually send value or money anywhere. They're pretty much sending like messages to tell other people that they want money that they already have stashed in these other countries. They're sometimes known, or banks also have them, called Nostro Vostro accounts. It's pretty much, I tell you, I'm in Canada, hey, I need some money from Zimbabwe, or we're trying to send money back and forth. You pretty much have to have that pre-funded into an account already, and this is why it's very difficult to be able to send value and money across borders or to other countries, because typically the countries that benefit the most from the current financial system are North America and Europe and also parts of Asia. But if you're trying to send stuff to like Southeast Asia middle of Africa or even a lot of South America, it's very difficult because a lot of these accounts aren't really funded with as much money. They go through inflation. They all have these different types of issues. Anyway, continuing on, it said, we did a proof of concept with one cryptocurrency. We made a press release so I can answer that. That was with Ripple, where we were trying to see if we can use cryptocurrency for liquidity in the markets, because the big secret with money transfers is money doesn't move. The money's already there. We pre-fund pretty much in bank accounts all over the world, and then we do value transfer. But if I send money from here to Mexico and literally physically move the money at a time, it would take a lot of time. Cryptocurrencies could change the status quo, said Bebek, by making it truly possible to send value across borders in an instant without needing to utilize pre-funded bank accounts. However, the liquidity of crypto assets is a key issue that still needs to be overcome. So it kind of continues going on. Okay, maybe not. I thought it actually went a lot deeper and further. Anyway, we had news a couple of days ago that what was it? That Ripple had acquired MoneyGram. Apparently people were screaming at me that this had been debunked. I do apologize for being human and not getting the news that you do as immediately as you do. I still wonder exactly to what extent this, rather how far and how deep this goes, because I have a feeling, and I mean, maybe a lot of it is wishful thinking, but a lot of it should be happening by this point, exactly which companies are going to be using which cryptocurrencies and who exactly is going to be using XRP. I think it would be kind of weird if the head of MoneyGram came forward to talk about Ripple and the sending of money around the world through cryptocurrencies, but didn't really release any specific information. Maybe it's just me. Anyway, let's move on. Binance is in the news. May saw a surge in traffic to some cryptocurrency exchanges as Bitcoin trading volumes on Binance and Coinbase hit a 14-month high. Most likely, U.S. President Donald Trump's trade wars, Brexit turmoil, and the specter of a looming world recession are propelling excitement in the cryptocurrency market. That's an understatement. As a result, website traffic on major exchanges such as Coinbase and Binance soared in May of 2019. Bitcoin exchanges' popularity continues to soar. For example, data from SimilarWeb shows that cryptocurrency exchange Binance, one of the top 1,000 websites in the world, had over 42 million visits in May alone. Similarly, Coinbase, the largest US-based Bitcoin exchange, received over 35 million visits. More importantly, money is floating into exchanges, as many of these visits were materialized in trades for about $5.9 billion in May. For example, on May 16th, volume on Coinbase hit a 14-month high with over 47,000 Bitcoin. Around $376 million was traded, as the chart provided by Bitcoinity shows below. There's a lot of money floating around right now, and I was reading something and listening to a podcast, and they were talking about a lot of things haven't been priced into the cryptocurrency market yet. They assume that Litecoin's reward getting cut in half hasn't been fully priced in yet, that a lot of people haven't even begun to think about pricing Bitcoin's reward being cut in half, and just a lot of the movement that we see behind the cryptocurrency space. They still believe that where we are with prices right now is that a lot of the people who got into the cryptocurrency space around October, November of 2017 still have not yet re-entered the cryptocurrency space, while very heavy-handed rich people have already started to accumulate massive amounts of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, all under no one's eye. It's kind of the the easiest way of saying it. They've been accumulating an enormous amount of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, as we've heard over the last couple of weeks. And this is all going to become a very interesting thing when the market does go back up. A lot of people who were here before are going to realize that they can't get in at the same prices that they tried to get into before. The market is going to be moving back up. Other rich people, as we've built an enormous amount of infrastructure around the cryptocurrency space this year, are going to start moving into the market. They're going to be heavy-handed as well, buying up large amounts of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. And then other normal people who were in the market before are going to try and get into the market. They're going to make some gains, and them making any type of gains in their money, they're going to end up telling other people, hey, I just made $300 over the last couple of weeks, and this will also then force more people to get into other crypto. It's really the numbers that we have right now are actually larger than the movement in the market during 2017, which is insane to even think about, which means that we are probably poised potentially for larger prices as we end up going through 2019. Not getting into any specific coin numbers, but a lot of people do believe that cryptocurrencies are going to fare relatively well once we get proper confirmation from the big names as to when they are going to be launching. Next up, this one's actually quite interesting, and I think this is very important. U.S. Congressman Ted Budd is outlining how tax policies could cripple the adoption of cryptocurrencies, stifle blockchain innovation, and drive talent overseas. He calls it a national security issue. In his testimony to the House Ways and Means Committee, of the U.S. House of Representatives on the 4th of June, Budd asked for bipartisan support of the Cryptocurrency Tax Fairness Act and the Virtual Value Tax Fix of 2018. The bills are instrumental in addressing low adoption rates for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Budd points out that the playing field isn't even and that crypto can't really compare with money because Bitcoin and crypto enthusiasts face double taxation that is not extended to fiat currency. The double taxation prevents people from spending crypto like regular money, and without addressing this issue affecting the rate of adoption and innovation in the United States, he said, and I do quote, "First, I want to talk about why virtual currencies should have a de minimis exemption because currently, as you all know, cryptocurrencies and blockchain tokens do not qualify. The IRS treats virtual currencies as property under U.S. tax law, and this, of course, means that the sale of exchange of blockchain tokens for fiat currency or other goods or services is a taxable event. For example, if a token user spends 65 cents worth of Bitcoin to buy soda from a vending machine, he is required by law to calculate and pay the tax liability associated with that transaction. This is not a sustainable model, in my opinion. Luckily, there is a legislation in place already to fix the problem. It's called the Cryptocurrency Tax Fairness Act, introduced last Congress by former Representative and now Governor of Colorado, Jared Polis, and this committee's own and friend David Schweikert. I was a proud co-sponsor of this legislation. This is the one I think that continues to go on. If something like this passes in the United States or ends up getting any type of momentum, I think that would be wonderful. I'm a little worried because the SEC and CFTC have not been doing fairly well the last couple of ever in the United States when it comes to cryptocurrency regulations, but I think this would be a huge win. I don't think at the moment there are any or many other countries around the world that have something like this. As far as a lot of countries, if you get rid of your crypto for fiat, you are taxed on it. If you spend your crypto to buy something, you are taxed on it. It's kind of nonsensical, and this is why I think we've seen a lot of countries moving away from calling them cryptocurrencies and trying to call them crypto assets to be able to make sure that people are taxed when they actually use these things. It's kind of weird. I think eventually we won't have a choice, or rather, I think in the future, they won't have a choice and they will have to go back to being called cryptocurrencies. I think when Bitcoin hits that magical $100,000 mark, I think that's going to be the precursor for everything kind of falling into place. I think a lot of governments, like I said before, are scared of cryptocurrencies. And this is why I think that they're calling them assets as even another way to kind of downgrade them in the eyes of the public, because it's something. If you're not a currency and you can't be used on a daily basis to be able to transact value, but you're an asset, you get a lot of people also moving away from them. I met a lot of people in my life. I'm pretty sure you all have as well. I grew up not even relatively, I grew up poor. We didn't have a lot of money at all. And the word asset was always something kind of negative. It was always, I was raised to believe that the stock market and anything else associated with it was kind of a scam. It was only for the rich. So these things are also meant to kind of push people away from finance. And, I don't want to own any assets because something's wrong with them. What if they go down in value, so and so and so? You're meant to continue to believe that the governments should have eternal power and they're the only ones who should be able to issue money and coins and so and anything else. Anyway, it would be very nice if this does end up passing, or even just in one or two states. We've seen within the United States over the last year, I think there were about 3 states that had relatively nice cryptocurrency bills. If it goes across the wider US, that'd be great. But even if it just hit 3 to 5 different states, these states would probably then flourish as we go further in this year and also 2020 and 2021. But yeah. To kind of finish things off, data by Statistica shows that Turkey has the highest levels of crypto adoption amongst its population when compared to other European nations. The market research firm says that at least 18% of all Turks have crypto asset investments. This percentage is twice higher than the European average and higher too than that of other countries in Europe. The only other countries that come close to Turkey in terms of average crypto adoption are Romania, Poland, and Spain. The Turkish lira has been on a free fall, losing most of its value against the US dollar as diplomatic tensions between the Eastern European nation and the United States has escalated. With its exports to the US facing sanctions, life is becoming difficult for the Turks. They have taken to the hoarding of US dollars and crypto to protect the value of their savings. In February, for instance, the lira lost over 50%. 50% in February of its value against the US dollar. The 80 million strong nation, which also is a vital ally of NATO, has had its currency in the doldrums for a very long time. I think one of the charts is actually, here's the actual, it says how many consumers own cryptocurrency. That's incredible. Turkey has 18% of its population or owning cryptocurrency. That's really insane. And on the opposite side of it, Luxembourg has 4%, Belgium has 5%, France has 6%, the UK has 6%, Netherlands has 7%, Australia? I'm pretty sure Australia is not Europe, but okay. Australia, has other countries. There we go. I was like, what? Australia has 7%, Italy has 8%, Germany has 8%, Austria has 8%, US has 8%, Spain has 10%, Poland has 11%, and Romania has... That's incredible to imagine that 1 out of every 5... Is that correct? Yep. 1 out of every 5 people in Turkey has cryptocurrency. And here's another little chart right here. For those who are not looking at the screen, I will read it out to you because it is very, very important. It says Turkey's annual inflation rate fell to 18% in May 2019 from 19.5% in the previous month. And below market expectations of 19%. It was the lowest rate since August of last year as prices rose at a softer pace for food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing, and transportation. Inflation rate in Turkey averaged 34% from 1965 until 2019, ranging an all-time high of 138% in May of 1980 and a record low of -4% in 1968. It shows a little chart, and over the last couple of months, I assume these are definitely months, June, July, it goes 15%, 15%, 17%, 24%, 25%, 21%, 20%, 20%, 19%, 19%, 19.5%, and 18.71% over the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Over the last year, every month has been terrible for their economy, and this is exactly why I think it's happening. Even if you look at this list, I assume... Rather, it looks like countries that probably aren't under as much economic pressure own less cryptocurrencies, or less of a percentage of people within these countries actually own cryptocurrencies. I have my own idea as to exactly why this is happening or why this could be taking place, but I wonder how far these charts are going to go, if there are other charts, because they seem to be very, I want to say, more well-known countries. I'm interested to see exactly how it is in other countries as well, because we also have information before, for those who don't know, cryptocurrencies are becoming relatively large, or pretty large, in South America and also Central America, as people are buying up cryptocurrency as a way to avoid inflation for their own fiat currencies, which is something very important. It's very interesting. This is something that I heard many years ago when I first got into cryptocurrencies. Once again, is that this would happen, is that we would have a situation where countries around the world would be experiencing inflation, and large inflation, and also hyperinflation, and other, really crazy numbers like this. And this would actually cause their people to actually get into cryptocurrencies. I remember seeing something last year where it was like a news story where all these people, it was so funny, all these people from Dubai were actually going to Turkey to buy like Louis Vuitton and Gucci and all this other stuff because of how much cheaper it actually was in Turkey. It's very fascinating. And I assume this is probably going to continue. I don't assume we are going to have any negative inflation rates for Turkey anytime soon. But it's kind of fascinating to see exactly how, or rather the use case of cryptocurrencies. Like when we talk about Bitcoin being a store of value, it's typically Bitcoin becoming a store of value when it has a $250,000 to a $500,000 valuation, i.e. the price is very stable, as there's a lot of money floating around inside of it. And you wouldn't really think of Bitcoin as a store of value as of right now, but even just compared to the other currencies, like imagine having a currency that goes up by 15% 1 month, 15%, 17.9%, 24.5%, 24.5%. Like it's like you're losing an incredible amount of value on your money every single month. But if you had put that money into cryptocurrencies or even just into Bitcoin, even somewhere around here, Bitcoin has almost tripled in value. Like you would have, your gains are absolutely incredible compared to what you and every one of your countrymen actually had to go through. It's kind of very fascinating. I mean, not even kind of, it's incredibly fascinating. What am I talking about? Yeah. Anyway, as always, a very special thank you to my Patreon supporters. They are Professor Wally from Gunbot University, S.C. Versley Fine Art, Crypto and Beer Shipmate, Brady Niels, L. Doug, Jared Schneider, Wise Night Owl, Shaolin Fried Rice, Gail Boa, Snake Crypto, Joe Mohair, Maroney, Carl Birchenoff, singer-songwriter Mike Savitz, Rai Rai, Yasha Harari, Amy Starsheen, Jeffrey Ramsey, Crypnotic, Clara T. Snowden, Crypto Artist, Coldy 3D, Nicholas One Earth, One Peace, One Love, Setsuna, Nick Kanaya, Richie Rich, The Third, RF Dusty, Cody, Vlad the Impaler, Paxis, Sam, Siri Vaseline, Jeremy the Photographer, Jim Gardner, Minting Coins, Arthur Yaku, Nick Mangelavori, Anthony Charles, and Mechanic. Thank you all very, very much for your support at the moment. For some reason, for those who are not looking at the screen, the cryptocurrency prices are going down a tiny bit. Bit of a change over the last 2 hours. It's kind of weird. As of now, as far as I have seen in my life, there is no negative news within the cryptocurrency space. It could just be a minor correction. It could be something that's happened with Bitcoin at the moment. Like I said, nothing is floating around. So I'm pretty sure within the next couple of hours, we should be receiving news as to why this is happening. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope you all are having a great day, morning, afternoon, and or evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be. I hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching and listening. I hope you have an incredible day. And yeah, I'll talk to you all soon. See